Hello everyone, my name is Danisha Stewart and I will be talking about my informative speech today. The topic I chose would be the importance and the history of foster care. I do like to start off with what tells say of how foster care originally started. It is said that foster care started in the Old Testament where they would give children to widowed women to fill that void of love in their heart. But for sake of time, we would like to jump all the way down to 1636, which is where we had our nation's first foster child, and his name was Benjamin Eaton. Then again, we jump 2,000 more years, 1853, where we come across a young man named Charles Brace. Charles Brace came up with the free foster home movement where he was walking down the street of New York and he seen that a lot of children were asleep on the ground and outside, and he did not like that. So he definitely decided to do something about it, and that's where the movement came in. He was basically asking for volunteers to take in children off the streets just to give them a roof over their head and covers or somewhere just to sleep and just have that homely feeling rather than being homeless. In 1965, Massachusetts started paying families to take in children just so they also won't be homeless. And 1885 is when Pennsylvania passes the first licensing law for parents, and just regular foster care parents would go and take classes and get licensed just so that they could legally watch children or take care of them and then foster them. In 1893, South Dakota provides subsidized for the foster children, basically just so that they can have somewhere to go if they didn't have a home to go to. In the 20th century is when the local agencies started paying like monthly for people who wanted to like adopt the children out of foster care. In 1919, the Children's Bureau published minimum standards. These minimum standards consisted of, we're going to sum this up in a nutshell, basically stating that they want children to stay in the household with their parents. But if it gets to a point where the household is unsafe and they're experiencing negligence or being abused, then they would take those children out of that home and put them in another place to where they'll be safe, loved, and cherished. But they kind of made the standards to where they wouldn't just take kids out of homes without it really being a bad situation. Leads us to 1935 when the federal government approved the grant for foster care, basically giving us more money to have more programs, to take care of more children, to house them, feed them, clothe them. In 1939 through 1945 was around World War II, and they found a lot of youth fleeing from the danger of the World War II, trying to find placements for a temporary foster home because they had nowhere to go due to the war and their parents being gone. In 2012, the state of California came out with the Assembly Bill. This bill consisted of the standards of basically foster children staying in foster care until the age of 21, as long as they either had a high school diploma or a GED and that they were in college pursuing a higher education degree. So we are done with the history and we're going to move on to the statistics. So briefly, all of these statistics were accumulated in the year of 2019. Over 424,000 children in the United States are in foster care in any given day. Also, 672,000 children spent time in foster care in the year of 2019. The average age of a child that is in foster care is the age of 8. In 2018, so many parents were terminated of their rights to where it left 71,000 children without parents and put in foster care waiting for adoption. And then last but not least, 20,000 kids aged out of foster care in 2019. And that made them high risk for either being homeless, unemployed, or incarcerated, sadly. We go on to the risk and mental and physical health. So this is kind of also statistic based, but it is dealing with the mental and physical health. So, a sociologist from the University of College did research and was doing surveys based off of children who were in foster care and then comparing them with children who wasn't in foster care and came up with these results. And it reads that that children have 7 times the chance of being depressed, 6 times more likely to have behavior issues, 5 more times to develop anxiety, 3 times more likely to have hearing and vision abilities, and also twice the chance of developing a learning disability. I personally, all the research I've done, I personally didn't understand what exactly led to this, but just an educated guess from my behalf, I believe that it has something to do with lack of guidance. I can just say, growing up with my parents, they kind of taught us things to do, things not to do. If you want to get to this point in life, if you want to go here, if you want to do that, these are the steps that you have to take to get to that point. And I can only imagine growing up without the guidance or the parents to guide you, then I can understand how that leads to different disabilities and anxiety and depressions and etc. Moving on past the mental and physical health, I will go to the story of Carolyn Johnson. So before I get into her story, I read so many stories of different children experiences who grew up in foster care, and I advise you all to read as well, just so you can get an in-depth feeling and emotional connection on the experience that some people have just growing up in foster care. So Carolyn Johnson, she spent basically her whole life in foster care. She was in 7 different foster homes. She was also separated from her little sister, her baby sister, due to people really wanting the little babies. But every foster care she was in, she was with her younger brother. Carolyn also had a disability, which kind of made it a little bit harder for her to read and things like that. And she states how she rarely saw her caseworker due to the fact that no one really cared. She only seen her caseworker when it was time to leave a house or when it was time to go to a new house. Carolyn had it rough. She ended up getting pregnant at the age of 14. She was taken advantage of by another young guy who took advantage of her due to the fact that she had this disability. After having the baby, she decides to go through different classes, trying to do everything she can to be the best mom that she could. But the state, of course, took that against her, the fact that she was disabled, and they took her son away from her. So we'll fast forward it. Carolyn was really hurt by this, and she started doing things, acting out of character, getting in trouble, stuff like that, until she was enrolled into Laura Baker School for Persons with Disability. And she said when she got there, it basically turned her life around, and she was like a new person. And she was brought the opportunity to get her son back. But after seeing how happy he was, she decided to leave him where he was. And now Carolyn is grown with 4 children, and she is thriving to be the best mom that she could be. So I said that story to let you know that being in foster care, it doesn't define you. It doesn't stay who you are, and it will not change you. If you want to be a mom, a dad, a teacher, a police officer, a lawyer, you can be whatever you want to be as long as you put your mind to it. And I also want to inform everyone else who did not grow up in foster care to be sensitive to those who were, because they did have it rough, and just show love, because you never know how you can change someone's outcome and someone's future just by one day of an affection from you. Again, my name is Danshay Stewart, and that is my informative speech on my informative speech on foster care. I said social worker. Foster care. Thank you, and that'll be it. Bye.